Hi everyone and welcome to Fresh from My Garden. Today I'm doing a plant care video on African violets. So I'll also show you how to propagate these beautiful plants that you can grow indoors and out. African violets are these beautiful plants with thick succulent like leaves and gorgeous flowers that bloom almost throughout the year if given the right kind of conditions. So these plants can be grown indoors very easily as they tolerate low light. But in order for them to bloom and have these beautiful flowers, they need bright light conditions. These plants are ideal for small spaces and small containers, so they can be an ideal plant to keep on kitchen windowsills or even on our desks. So, if there is a spot with some bright light conditions and indirect sunlight, that is the ideal spot to place these plants, and they will grow well and give us lot of blooms throughout the year. So here I have some African violet cuttings that I am propagating in my seed tray, and I will also share how it can be done easily from cuttings. So here I have one that has started growing a little bit and new leaves are starting to form, and I have a tray here filled with these cuttings of African violets. So this is a very easy plant to propagate, and as you can see, these have been in the soil for a few days and roots have already started to form. So these plants are easy to care for and also easy to propagate. And since they have thick succulent like stems, they need to be watered very sparingly. Do not overwater these plants because the plants have thick stems that hold a lot of water. So these would be cared for just like you would care for succulent plants and water them only when the soil is dry. So here I am showing you some of the leaf cuttings that I had placed in my seed tray, and most of them have started rooting and producing a lot of new roots, and these should be transplanted into individual containers very soon. Alternatively, while taking cuttings, we can also place them directly into small individual containers and they will continue to grow in them very well. Now, here I have this tray and I have three small containers of African violets in them, and those are the three varieties that you saw in the beginning of the video. I have placed all these three containers into this tray that I have here, and from this we are going to take a few cuttings to propagate and get more plants for our garden. So today I'm going to take cuttings from all the three plants because they are of different varieties. As you saw in the beginning of the video, each plant has a different colored flower. So I'm going to propagate all three of them and take cuttings from them. So get a sharp knife and make a 45-degree angle cut at the base of the leaf. So make a sharp cut and with a sterilized knife so that there is no infection or any pests or any problems that affect the cutting or the plant. So once we have taken this cutting, we can directly place them in the soil or in a container with some water for the roots to form. But here I am going to be doing it directly in the soil. I'm going to propagate them in the soil and not in water because this is a succulent variety and there are possibilities of it rotting in water. So here accidentally I just wanted to cut one leaf, but I accidentally cut two leaves, but that's okay. I'm going to root both of these. And if you look at the stems of these plants, you can see the difference in the color of the stems. So the first one that I cut had a green stem. This has a pinkish stem, and I have a third one that I'm going to cut, and that has a slightly brownish tinge on its stem. So as you can see, I have cut all of these at an angle of 45 degrees with a very sharp serrated knife, and all of these will be potted into small containers. So you can see the difference in the color of the stems, and it looks really beautiful, and it will grow really fast, and you will have a lot of plants that you can place in different parts of your house, indoors or outdoors. So now I have small tiny containers here into which I'm going to pot my African violet cuttings, and here I have a soil mixture of some coco peat, compost and trichoderma. So we use trichoderma when we are planting cuttings so that there is no kind of fungal infection or pest attack, and it will help these plants grow well. So I'm going to mix up all this together and add them to these small tiny containers. So they are containers that would be around 4 to 5 inches deep, and African violets do very well in shallow containers. So in a year or two, when we see that our plants are being root bound, that is the only time we need to repot these plants. Until then, they can do very well in shallow containers. So once these containers have been filled, we can just make a little hole into the soil with our finger and place these cuttings into the soil. Don't push these cuttings or the stems, because the stems are really very delicate and they can bend or break. If you feel that the stems are too long, we can also trim it before placing them in the soil, but here I am going to place them directly into the soil and place them in a spot the north side of our garden. These are a few cuttings that I had propagated earlier, and this one seems to have started rooting because I cannot remove it from the soil. This is another one where you can start seeing formation of new leaves. So it is doing really well, and it is placed in the north side of our garden under filtered light. This is one that I started. This is the first trial of African violet propagation that I did, and these are doing really well. So you can see that there are so many leaves that have formed, and it's looking really beautiful and healthy. Also, take care when placing African violets in the garden, indoors or out. They should be placed in a spot where there is bright indirect light, not direct sunlight, because these plants are really sensitive and they can get burnt easily if placed in a spot with direct sunlight. So we have a few on our dining table and some on our kitchen windowsill. So both these spots receive indirect bright light. So I hope you liked today's video and the tips that I shared. These plants are really beautiful for indoor living spaces, and you can really grow and also propagate them easily to get a lot of new plants for your garden. Please do share your thoughts in the comments below about our videos and what kind of videos you would like to see in the future. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and support us so that we can grow as a channel and a community. Thanks for watching Fresh from My Garden.